Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. A scientist is forced to create a time machine for a group of lunatics and must go back to the day of the crucifixion to prevent Jesus from being eliminated and all of history from being changed. Today we will recap the story of the movie, Black Easter, from 2020. In 2029, a retired military man named Brant is traveling with his family when his wife tells him that even outside the military, he will always be a hero, and that God will work a great miracle through him. But before they can figure out what it will be, Brant gets distracted on a curve and his car is hit hard by a truck, causing it to overturn. As he is the only one unbelted, the man flies out of the vehicle while his family is trapped inside the car, which starts to catch fire until it explodes, leaving Brant feeling guilty for the elimination of his wife and daughters. Consumed by booze, the ex-military man spends the next few weeks remembering his family while placing the blame for everything on God, asking, if he is so powerful, why he allowed something like this to happen. At the same time, in Lab 19, a team of scientists led by Ram Goldstein works on a teleportation machine when they end up blowing up part of the place. After the failure, the 4 researchers are surrendered by security guards who keep them locked up in the lab until the arrival of Ahmed, the billionaire who is funding the project. As soon as he arrives at the place, Ram tries to take all the blame to save the job of the rest of the team, but unlike what they imagined, Ahmed seems quite happy and decides to show the security camera footage, revealing that for a second, the chair they tried to teleport arrived to materialize on the other side. Quite happy with the progress, Ahmed asks his men to lock down Unit 19 and transfers Ram's group to Lab 1, promoting them to his core team and promising a bonus of 10 million each if they manage to complete the project. While the scholars take a day off, Brant goes to visit Ahmed saying that he is tired of staying at home and asks to resume his activities as leader of the security team. Since he wants to give Brant some time to deal with his grief, the billionaire accepts Brant's return to the team, but puts Sabir as temporary leader, leaving the former military man in charge of the less stressful activities. A few weeks later, Ram and his team continue working on the project, but even with the equipment in the main laboratory, they do not make much progress, which leaves Goldstein very frustrated. To calm him down, Amy calls him to the server room where they can both relax away from the cameras, but while they spend some time there, Ram starts to hear interfering sounds and decides to infiltrate the network to find out what is going on, discovering that his boss is working together with Rashad Amir, one of the most wanted criminals in the world. It turns out that Ahmed is funding the research with the sole purpose of using the teleportation machine to send bombs and other supplies from one place to another, and to attack multiple locations at the same time. Now that she knows who they are working for, Amy suggests they notify the FBI, and Ram says they should pretend nothing has happened so they won't be discovered. Putting the plan into practice, they go back to the lab where they continue the tests, trying to transport some styrofoam balls from one side of the room to the other, but since nothing works out, Ram starts thinking of all the possible variables and realizes that he forgot one of the most important: time. When you are carrying the ball from one side to the other, it takes a few seconds to complete the path, so without adding this time variation into consideration, it is as if he is trying to carry the styrofoam balls at the speed of light, which ends up disintegrating them. Realizing that this might be the answer, Ram says it's lunchtime and gets everyone out of the lab, leaving him alone to do the final tests. Not wanting to be discovered by the security guards, Goldstein places a styrofoam ball on the end of the platform and leaves a small eraser beside it, which is the actual object to be transferred. Now taking time into consideration, Ram manages to make the rubber travel to the other platform while pretending to have gone wrong with the styrofoam sphere, only for the security guards to notice that there is something strange and manage to identify the moment he picks up the rubber. Aware that he has just discovered time travel, Ram goes to the computer to encrypt all the code, but while the artificial intelligence is finishing the process, the security guards arrive at the place and take the eraser in his pocket, taking him to Ahmed for an explanation. Ram then says that time travel is extremely dangerous, as they risk altering the timeline and causing everything to cease to exist. Blinded by ambition, Ahmed says that the risk is worth taking and orders Sabir to take him to the lockdown room while other teams try to recover the encrypted data, but since they can't, the billionaire decides that he will get Goldstein to cooperate one way or another. To do this, Ahmed goes to Brant and asks him to get the scientist to tell him how to decrypt the machine. After this, the billionaire goes to Amy and the others and tries to dismiss them, saying that Ram has made a great discovery and that the US military has deemed the project top secret, removing their holdings and confiscating their cell phones. Soon after this, Ahmed goes to the warehouse and realizes that Brant has not yet managed to get the scientist to talk. To speed up the process, he brings Ram's parents and starts threatening them, but since the young man won't cooperate, the billionaire decides to eliminate both of them to force the young man to remove the encryption. Upon hearing the boss's plan, Brant says he doesn't agree with it and they both go outside to talk. Manipulative as ever, Ahmed says that it was just a threat and that even if they did that, Ram could go back in time and save them. Back in the confinement room, Ahmed asks about the encryption again and gives Goldstein 7 seconds to change his mind, but since this doesn't happen, he orders his men to shoot his father in the head. Since the scientist still refuses to cooperate, the billionaire gives him 5 more seconds and then tells them to eliminate the mother, saying that now it will be up to him to reactivate the machine and bring them back. Still, Ram refuses to say anything and Ahmed decides to use his final card, threatening to capture Amy and remove every part of her body right in front of her, starting with her eyes. With this, the scientist finally decides to collaborate and says that he does not know if time travel works with humans, but Ahmed is willing to take the risk and gives him 3 days to finish the necessary adjustments. Out of options, Ram works on the time machine while secretly programming a trip that will take him 10 minutes before his parents were eliminated. After 3 days, everything is ready and Ahmed decides to use one of his men to test the time travel, but before he gets on the platform, Goldstein delivers the recuperator, a device that looks like an Apple Watch and serves to ensure that the molecules stay together after teleportation, and allows the traveler to return without the help of someone from the present. Even terrified, the bodyguard sees no other alternative and climbs the platform, ending up on the other side of the laboratory without a scratch. After this, Ram puts a retriever on his wrist and tries to run to the platform, but the security guards stop him and Ahmed says that he will not allow him to save his parents, ordering his men to take him away from the laboratory. Alone with Brant, the billionaire asks Brant if he is still angry with God and says that he has the perfect opportunity for revenge, ordering his employee to assemble a team and travel to the time of Jesus, taking advantage of Brant's anger to eliminate the Messiah before the resurrection and prevent the birth of Christianity. Taking advantage of the security guard's distraction, Amy gets together with the team and goes to the camera room to locate Ram, catching the exact moment when Brant's team travels back in time. Although they are happy the machine is working, they keep looking for their friend until they find him tied up in the warehouse. Checking the surrounding cameras, they realize that there are no guards around and rush to free him as Brant and his men arrive in the Garden of Gethsemane in 33 after Christ. With their modern equipment, they manage to locate Jesus' group and catch the moment when Judas arrives with the Roman soldiers. To accomplish the mission, they split into 2 groups and wait for Judas to reveal who Jesus is in order to eliminate everyone present, from the disciples to the Roman soldiers. With only the Messiah left, Brant approaches the target and begins to speak, saying that if he really is the Son of God, he can deflect the bullets. However, Jesus replies that he will do nothing and that he already perished for him, giving the ex-military man permission to do what he thinks is right. Brant then stands up and fires a shot at the man lying down, saying that this is because he has taken his family. With the mission completed, he places the retriever on Jesus' arm and returns to the present with the body, receiving Ahmed's congratulations. Seeing everything on camera, Ram realizes that this is the perfect opportunity and plans to go to the laboratory to travel back in time and expose Ahmed to the authorities before he uses the machine. It turns out that after a change in the timeline, history begins to rewrite itself at the speed of light. As such, it is only a matter of time before Ahmed's actions have consequences in the timeline and they can no longer return. In a hurry, they initialize the recuperators and try to go back to when they were still in Laboratory 19, but the machine only allows them to travel to a time before Brant and his men were. Out of options, Ram copies the last coordinates and gets on the platform at exactly 1:50 a.m., the exact moment Ahmed's men arrive at the lab. Knowing that Brant will soon be there, the scientists start running through the woods and find Jesus just as Ahmed's men begin their elimination mission, finally discovering what the billionaire wanted with time travel. Now that he knows about the end of Christianity, Ram decides that the best option is to go back before the new data overwrites itself, but since he doesn't know if Ahmed has set a trap, he suggests going with Amy while Simon and Felix wait to go a little later. This way, if they are captured by the security guards, the 2 remaining scientists can use the time machine to go back 10 minutes before Ram's parents are eliminated. With the plan laid out, the 2 go back in time and realize that they ended up at exactly 1:20 a.m., 30 minutes before the last trip. As they appear in front of one of the security guards, the 2 run through the corridors until they reach Lab 19, where Ram tries to reprogram the teleportation machine to get them out of the building. But since the security guards already know where they are, Amy turns to the cameras and starts communicating through Libras with the version of her from the past, which is still on the server looking for Ram. As soon as she finishes passing the message, Ahmed's men enter the lab and eliminate both of them, which allows the scientists to go to the warehouse and save Ram from the past without Ahmed suspecting anything. Back at the lab, they kick the other researchers out and program the machine to take them out 10 minutes before Brant's team arrives. In 33 after Christ, The two scientists who have been waiting for their colleagues decide it is time to leave and try to go back to 2029, but for some reason, Simon's retriever burns out and he remains in the past, causing Felix to go to the future alone and be captured by Ahmed's men. With the scientist in hand, the billionaire begins to interrogate him until finally the timeline rewrites itself, revealing that without Christianity, the planet is completely ruined in the future, causing everyone to disappear and Felix to be attacked by dozens of zombies sprouting from the ground. Back in 33 AD, the group of scientists arrive on their second trip to the past and plan to use their 10-minute advantage to surprise Brandt and his men, but they will need to do so as quickly as possible, as they will only be vulnerable while materializing. Taking advantage, the researchers take pieces of wood and manage to eliminate almost all of the men, but Brandt and Sabir manage to materialize and end up eliminating both Felix and Simon, as well as hitting Amy with a shot. Upon learning that Ahmed's men have survived, Amy begs Ram to go after them and save Jesus. Wearing his lab coat, Goldstein jumps off the cliff and begins chasing Sabir through the disciples' camp, causing him to trip over Peter's body and drop the pistol to the ground. Back at Simon's first trip, he gives up waiting for rescue and decides to fix the retriever on his own, but ends up causing a short that takes him to the Garden of Gethsemane right next to Jesus. Face to face with the Messiah, Simon asks him not to return to the camp and tells him about the men from the future who will come to eliminate him, but Jesus replies that this will no longer happen and that he must return to face his destiny. Back at the camp, Ram sees that someone has found Sabir's pistol and starts following the crowd hoping for an opportunity to steal it, taking the gun from the hands of one of the soldiers. After making sure that Jesus was taken by the Romans, Goldstein goes back to the Garden of Gethsemane where he finds Amy badly hurt, suggesting that they should go back to the future to go to a hospital, but when he tries to activate the recuperators, he realizes that they were deactivated by Ahmed to prevent them from returning. As dawn breaks, Brandt meets up with Sabir and steals some clothes so that he can blend into the crowd and reconnoiter the area. Despite his orders, Sabir disobeys his superior and ends up getting into trouble when he tries to steal a merchant's tomatoes, attracting the attention of the soldiers who begin to confront him. Refusing to return the fruit, the man draws his gun and shoots one of the Romans, causing numerous guards to come to arrest him and Brandt, who ends up losing the retriever that is found by Mary Magdalene. At the same time, one of the Roman soldiers sees the temporal Apple Watch in Sabir's arms and decides to put the object around the gun, which ends up activating the mechanism and making the gun go back to the future. A few hours later, Simon finds Jesus being carried away by Roman soldiers and decides to help him, carrying the cross on one shoulder while using the other arm to carry the Messiah. A short time later, Ram arrives with Amy and asks Mary Magdalene if she knows any doctors or healers, but since she cannot understand what he says, the woman takes him to Jesus who is already crucified. Desperate, the scientist kneels in front of the cross and asks it to heal her, but is completely ignored. On the cross beside him, Sabir says that he is wasting his time and that Jesus can't even save himself, claiming that soon he will be eliminated. On the other side, Brandt repents and asks forgiveness for all he has done, begging Christ to remember him when he enters his kingdom. At that moment, Jesus breaks the silence and says that they will meet in heaven, which makes Ram furious, because Brandt shot Amy and tried to eliminate him and yet will be forgiven, while an innocent woman is dying right before his eyes. Finally, Ram says that Jesus is a fraud and that Amy will perish because of him, causing him to finally answer that to save her, the scientist will need to forgive Brandt. Disgusted, Goldstein replies that he will never forgive him and begins to carry Amy away, meeting Simon halfway. As the only survivor of the first trip, he has no idea what happened in that time and asks what happened to the girl, forcing Ram to explain all the events so far. In 2029, Ahmed finds the pistol that the Roman soldier sent by mistake and decides to use the retriever to go to Jesus' tomb and eliminate anyone who tries to steal his body, thus proving that he was never resurrected. Not far from there, Amy awakens after some time and asks to be taken to Jesus' tomb to see the resurrection with her own eyes, causing Ram and Simon to spend the early morning carrying her there. On the morning of the resurrection, the trio finally arrive at the site and find two soldiers standing guard. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake and Ahmed goes back to the future, afraid of being buried inside the tomb. As soon as the billionaire leaves, Jesus' body begins to glow and the stone that covers the passage explodes into several pieces, but while Amy and Simon are amazed by the miracle, Ram notices the traces of a time travel and decides to go there to investigate, finding the neon sticks that Ahmed left on the floor. Alone on the hilltop, Amy is visited by Jesus who removes all her pain, allowing her to perish in peace. Inside the tomb, the scientists are caught by Mary Magdalene who accuses them of having stolen the body, but Ram manages to convince them that Jesus resurrected to keep the original story. In wonder, the woman comes out of the tomb and hands them Brandt's retriever, allowing them to finally return to 2029. But since they only have one device, they decide to use the object at the same time, attaching it to their wrists and activating the mechanism. As soon as they arrive in the future, Simon starts shooting at the guards with Sabir's gun and ends up getting shot. Desperate, Ram puts his friend in a chair and begins to resynchronize the retriever so that he can go back to before his parents' elimination, but before he leaves, he hands Simon a gun and asks his friend to destroy the computer as soon as he passes by. Finally, Ram says goodbye and runs to the platform. However, Simon is unable to destroy the PC in time and two guards end up passing by before he accomplishes the mission. In the past, Goldstein arrives to save his parents and is surrendered by the guards, but as soon as he drops his weapons to the ground, the security guards' bodies disintegrate into space due to the lack of a retriever. Finally free, Ram runs to the confinement room and saves his parents, forcing Ahmed to run to the office while he asks one of his men to capture Amy. Halfway through, the billionaire calls Brandt and tells him about Ram's escape, ordering him to go to the office to protect him. After freeing his parents, Goldstein starts running after his former boss and manages to break into his office. However, Brandt arrives at the place and ends up being surrendered by the scientist while Ahmed is hidden under the table. Furious, Ram accuses the bodyguard of eliminating Amy, but since in this timeline this has not happened yet, Brandt is quite confused and denies all accusations. Convinced of his innocence, the former military man says that he only wanted to recover the business information he stole and that he has already lost everything he loved, so it would be a favor to him if Ram would pull the trigger. Noticing the sadness in Brandt's eyes, the scientist finally manages to forgive him and puts the gun down, but soon remembers that Ahmed is still alive and begins to approach the table accompanied by his father. Just then, Sabir arrives with Amy and orders them to drop their weapons if they want her to live, opening the gap for Ahmed to come out from under the table and shoot the scientist in the back. Not satisfied, the billionaire makes a shot that hits his father's thigh and starts the countdown to eliminate his mother, but Ram interrupts him saying that he heard a woman's voice saying, "Be a hero." Knowing that it is a message from his wife, Brandt does as she says and starts shooting at his former allies, eliminating almost all of them, but Ahmed manages to strike back in time and lands 2 shots in his spine, leaving him totally paralyzed. Thinking he has won, the billionaire asks for the code to remove the encryption and turns to shoot Ram's mother, giving the man the opening he needed to take the curved dagger from the table and stick it in Ahmed's back, piercing his heart right away. At that moment, the police arrive on the scene and Brandt reveals that his former boss and all the internal agents are part of a criminal network, starting a hunt for the other security guards in the building. Wanting to know if he has made things right with Jesus, Ram asks Amy to open the Bible app and read the New Testament, confirming that the resurrection really happened and that he saved Christianity. With this confirmation, Ram from the future perishes in Amy's arms, but since in this timeline he has been stuck in the warehouse all this time, it doesn't take long before the present version appears 100% healthy and can go on with life as normal. In order to help Brandt, who has become paraplegic, Ram and the others spend the next few months developing their research and manage to finish the time machine on their own, going back to the exact moment when the former military man lost his family. While Brandt's wife talks about being a hero, Ram appears in front of the car dressed as a traffic cop and manages to slow it down, avoiding the accident and leaving only a stop sign behind. Looking at the object, Brandt's wife finds a note warning about Ahmed's crimes and asking them to report him to the FBI, allowing everyone to move on safely. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.